so there had been a gigantic earthquake in San Francisco, if you remember this. Like, the freeway fell down. Right as they were having the World Series between Oakland and San Francisco. Right, so then they canceled the World Series for a while, and then they decided, let's start it again this coming weekend. The same weekend we were releasing Kill Me Again. Nobody saw it, because they were all watching baseball, but somehow Francis Coppola got to see it, and then he liked it and recommended it to his nephew.
He has quite like a restrained performance. How did you work with him on set? I know he likes to try out.
Well, I think actually the first day that we were shooting, we were doing that scene with the gas station where he. This is one thing I figured out about movies too. On Last Seduction, the scene that the producers really wanted was this cheerleading scene where Peter Berg and Linda Fiorentino are naked in the gym playing a game of like she's a cheerleader. And I know they really wanted to do that, so I just scheduled it for the very last day of the shoot, so that we could get everything else that we wanted shot. And on Red Rock, one of the things that the producers thought we didn't need was the first scene in the movie where Nick pulls into the gas station and doesn't take the money. And we thought that's insane. This is the only thing that makes him kind of a sympathetic character, is that he doesn't take the money. So we scheduled that on the first day. So we're filming that scene. Nick walks out. He's putting the gas in the car, or the guy's putting the gas in the car. So I like that little laugh he did. And then he said, "Oh, really?" And the next take it was bigger. The next one was bigger. The next one was huge. And then we did one more take, and okay, I think we got that. But he was a very intuitive, and he's a wonderful actor. But he, at one point, I just said to him, and again, this is terrible direction, but I just said, you should be Clint Eastwood in this movie. And he went, okay.
There's some scenes you can pick up.
He just got that, and he said, you don't have to do much. You just have to kind of you got a good backstory, and you can just squint.
Yeah.
And he kind of got that, and that sort of worked for him like that.
But also cutting-wise, I would see it in the dailies. I'd see take one, and it'd be really organic and kind of wonderful and felt really real. And then you'd see take two, and it'd be kind of like part of his brain would be, what did I do last time? It felt good. And then, right? And so you'd see this kind of, suddenly it wasn't quite as organic. And then take three, it'd be, last time it didn't feel, how do I get this to feel like take one? And then, so I just ended up using take one all the time.
How about Dennis Hopper in the editing room?
Well, Dennis was, he just got more creative as he went. Don't piss on the seat, it's not lucky.
So let's take some questions from the audience. Who we got? Right up front here.
How was working with J.T. Walsh? He was in 2 of your movies.
I'll repeat the question real quick. He wants to know what it was like working with J.T. Walsh.
Well, that was one of the good things about J.T. Walsh came in, and he had just been in like a David Mamet film, and he was great, and he was fun to talk to, and we thought he was terrific, and we thought, I don't know what part he could play, because we wanted this other guy and then this guy for Wayne and Lyle, and then when Dennis Hopper became Lyle, we thought, well, we got a great part for Wayne, so he became Wayner,
I was determined to get it in one take, as I remember.
Yeah,
it was so intense and focused.
Yeah, he was very intense, very focused, and I think I remember that there was a scene in his office, and I said, "You're like you're an accountant," and he was looking for more material, because the script was kind of spare. So, well, you used to be an accountant, and so, you're the kind of guy that would just make sure all your pencils were sharp. And yeah. So he sat there and sharpened all his pencils for about 10 minutes before the take. And then you'll see he's got a lot of really sharp pencils in his office. But he was like one of those guys that he was very method and really wanted to kind of like embrace the character, and very intense. And there's another scene at the end of the movie where Dennis Hopper has this gun and he's pointing it at him. And, I could never, Dennis kept saying, "Yeah, it's got bullets in it, JT. I fucked up." And he would say, "Does he really have bullets in the gun?" I said, "I don't know, he doesn't." but he wouldn't let go of the gun. And he, poor, you know, I mean, Dennis just terrified him with that pistol for like a half a day. You know? He's like, I don't think I'd ever put up with that now, but he just like scared the crap out of him because he didn't know if there was he thought he was going to get shot half the time, which worked great for the scene, but you know, it was kind of brutal on JT. But you know, he was very serious and very intense and kind of fantastic.
Who else? I see a hand right there.
How did you end up getting what, or why did you pick the white logo?
White Gogo.
I had Dwight had wanted to be a really. I mean, I love his music, but then he called. You know, I kind of got into. I think he wanted me to do a music video. Maybe he'd seen Red Kill Me Again. I don't know. And he wanted to act, and he wanted me to do this music video that had like a 10-minute prologue of like an acting, and then it got into the music video, and which we never did. But I kind of started getting to know him and talking to him, and when we had this small part, you know, we asked him to be.
Yeah, he kept like bugging
Really,
you.
really
like,
wanted
wanted
to
to be in it.
really wanted to
Kinda
act.
like, oh yeah, we've got this one scene that he could be that guy.
Right.
And he showed up in, we shot in Arizona, and it was amazing because we had, you know, the highway patrol and sheriffs, you know, helping us out, and they were just like starstruck. And like Elvis and Rock, they were like, Mr. Yogan, could you sign my hat? And then Dwight had that whole scene written out. He had a whole like thing. He said, Rick, can we work on this? And went and sat in his trailer with him and kind of worked it out. And I think he did it, and Nick was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And they kind of shot the scene like they were, you know, they just didn't really rehearse it.
Well,
He added some really good lines, you know, it's bullshit, this, you know.
Yeah. And he also showed up with his own gun, which freaked everybody out. Never bring a gun to a film set. But no, he was great, you know. And then he came and watched the movie over at the editing room.
Oh, that's right.
With Scott and Rick and I, and then he said, "Wow, I really loved it." And he said, "Could I write a song for the end credit?" And I thought, well, you know, of course, as a kind of an asshole director, I'm thinking, well, part of me saying yes, but also part of me is thinking, what if I don't like the song? He literally called me 45 minutes later. Like, so he wrote the song on his way to his house, and he played 1,000 Miles from Nowhere over the phone. Like, he just wrote it on that.
Wow.
And I said, wow, that's great, Dwight. So, and probably the coolest thing is I got to go to the Apple Record Tower. There's a gigantic recording studio in the basement. Got to watch him record some music. So that was, you know, he was a great addition to the film, and also wrote a great song.
I want to switch back to Kill Me Again and ask about Val Kilmer and Joanne Whaley, because they were married at the time.
Yeah, they were a
correct?
couple, yeah.
How was the dynamic on set between that?
I'll let Dave take that.
Unusual. No, they were. I hesitate to, you know, criticize or anything. They had some troubles, but they never let it get in the way of finishing the scenes and so forth. It seemed to be a tense relationship at the time. That's all I can say.
They were pretty great because actually I think we were looking at Joanne. We liked her for this part.
Yeah.
And we were actually looking to cast her, and then somehow Val showed up too.
Yeah, it was an unusual situation that way, but we had already had her on our list before we knew that a couple would be cast. And we did figure, hey, well, that's going to be handy if they do anything intimate because, you know, they already know each other. I thought, you know, at the end of the day, she was terrific. I can't really say any of the real stuff. I'm sorry.
Well, they're really wonderful together on screen.
Her and
Lot of
Vince,
chemistry.
I mean, you know, her and the bad guy, even more so.
Oh,
Michael Madsen.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
true. I really like Val's character. I was reading a review that said the critic was almost frustrated. They couldn't figure out if Val's character was dumb or smart, which I think is really the brilliance of his performance and the way it's written. Was that intentional? Could you speak to it?
I think what's interesting with Val is that he was, I mean, you know, and he's obviously a great character actor. We just wanted him to kind of be himself, and he was really uncomfortable with that. We really wanted, like, we spent probably a month looking for the right wardrobe for him. You know, and he, you know, like, what do I do? What do I, you know, like, trying to kind of find the character. And eventually found something for him, but I think he was, you know, he just felt, and I think if you see Tombstone, which he was amazing in, I think he's one of those actors that's much more comfortable if he's not himself on camera. So we kept trying to find something for him. I think we settled on tinting his hair a little bit and that sort of.
And I would just like to add, you know, because it was, I was thinking about it too, you know, film noir, or the neo-noir thing, I remember around the time that we did, like, the only other film I could think of was Body Heat. That was right before this one, that was kind of noirish, and people started talking about that. I don't think the term neo-noir had been coined yet. But people think of it as a stylistic thing, right? Like Venetian blinds, slashing shadows, usually urban, usually, you know, shadowy, that kind of thing. This was different in that it was broad daylight everywhere and neon, but it had some of the stylistic tropes. But I always felt strongly that what really sets a noir apart, is it, you know, from all other crime thrillers, is the moral ambiguity of the protagonist. They're fucked up people, you know, often. And so Val being, is the character smart or dumb? He's both, and he's real vulnerable, and he kind of thinks that the fantasy is going to work for a minute. And yeah, I mean, you know, the whole genre is heavily reliant on a kind of fantasy, I think. And but I know we had that. We were worried that he would seem stupid, so that he would say things like, she says, "Do you trust me?" And he says, "No, I think you're a greedy, two-faced bitch." You know, so that it would disarm that feeling of what is this idiot doing, you know.
And sort of engineering that clever roadblock thing where
Yeah, that was cool.
the Arizona police go to lunch and
That's
the
right.
other guys stay there, so he's got an opportunity to get out.
Honestly, I'd forgotten about that
Yeah.
until I saw it.
Yeah.
And he had a choice to leave and
Yeah.
take the money, and he didn't do it. Yeah, he's stupid.
Case closed.
And we laid a lot of pipe. I kept wondering, why are we on an Indian reservation? We laid a lot of pipe just to get two people to be standing there at the end of that thing where he could like escape in the back of the truck.
Yeah, it was the right move, though.
Yeah. Actually, I have one last story I want to say about Kill Me Again. So we finished the film. We're sitting there with Steve Mignani at a screening room, and one of the executives comes over from Polygram and he watches the movie, because I don't think we tested this movie at all or anything back in the day. And he watches the movie, and the lights come on, and he turns to us and he says, "Well, the movie's not bad, but that scene where she says, 'Kill me again,' is just ridiculous. You gotta get rid of that." And then that executive left, and Dave and I looked at Steve and Jan, and Golan probably said something, "Well, that's fucked up, we can't." Just, you know, anyway, we're not taking it out. But our whole purpose, you know, it's just like, it's funny, a Hollywood story, the whole reason why we wrote the movie is to have somebody say, "You know what to do, Jack, kill me. Kill me again." And then the one executive that could put the kibosh on the whole thing says, "That's a stupid scene." And you know what, maybe it was.
Well, she had to do it. She had to say it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, obligatory.
So we're short on time, but I was hoping Rick and John could just say a few more words about Red Rock West before we watch.
Set it
Do you
up
wanna
for
add
those
anything
guys.
else?
There's so many things. Anyway,
Hope you like it.
yeah, we were very fortunate to get Nicolas Cage to be in the movie. We were very fortunate to get, you know, the cast that we got. Again, like I think what Dave was saying is that, you know, we never really wanted to make like a stylized noir movie because there's a lot of music video directors that were getting an opportunity to make a movie, and it was all about the style of the film. We always wanted to tell stories, and we always wanted to tell character-centric stories, and but that were also very plot-heavy. So, you know, we wanted to try to bring sort of a style and a sense of style of the movie, but not necessarily lean on that. And, you know, so it was kind of trying to get these. There's a scene where Nicolas Cage escapes with the girl, and they've got the money, and we're thinking, well, why don't they just drive away, you know, and they can get away. And I remember Rick and I talking, well, what if he just doesn't, he's run out of gas, you know, he just doesn't have enough gas in the car to get far enough away. And so we just put in this line where he looks at the gas meter and he says, fucking story of my life. Because one of the reasons that when he comes into town, he's out of gas. So he looks at the gas needle and says, fucking story of my life. We're getting ready to shoot the scene, and Nick says, why do I say this line? It's kind of stupid. I said, just try it. Then we're in the editing room, and we had this scene, and Scott says, this is kind of a stupid scene. How do we get rid of it? So I don't know, let's just try it. Then we actually had a test screening for that movie, and it's kind of a fun moment in the movie, especially, you know, when you've been told something sucks so many times, and then you leave it in there, and it gets to that point for the test audience, and then everybody laughs. It's very rewarding. So when you see that line, I want you to laugh a lot. But anyway, no, and it was one of these movies that kind of just a short story about it, that we made the film, and again, I've had fantastic luck with distributing movies, so we're getting ready to test this movie, and then the Rodney King verdict comes out, and the town's torn all apart, and our movie is not screened that night out in the valley. And then all the executives that were supposed to watch the movie, now when we schedule it again, have all fled to Cannes, I think. And so we have a test screening, and we've got one executive from Polygram that comes and watches the movie with Rick and Scott and I, and he watches the film and he goes, and I scored okay, and people liked it. It was kind of satisfying, and they laughed at my stupid line, and the executive that watched it said, well, you know, the problem with this movie is that it's kind of funny, and it's got some action in it, but it's not an action film and it's not a comedy. It's sort of a tweener. You guys have got to come up with either a bigger action scene or make it funnier. And we naively said, why don't we just distribute it as it is? So anyway, we never got a distribution deal, or it kind of got dumped, and they weren't released in
Europe.
Then it got released in Europe, and fortunately, some Canadian distributor was in, I should know his name, but.
No, I think Roger Ebert saw it at the Toronto Film Festival.
Well, but first there was a Canadian distributor that saw it in France. Same thing kind of happened to Last Seduction, but anyway, the Canadian guy watched it in France, came back, called up the studio, said, I want to take this to the Toronto Film Festival, I want to distribute it in Canada. And the studio that owned it said, fine, we're putting it on cable anytime now, so.
It's on HBO.
It was on HBO or something like that. We got to the Toronto Film Festival, and the first time that a lot of the people that were involved in the film with the producers saw it was at the Toronto Film Festival, and people actually laughed at a lot of the lines. But by that point, it was too late. It had already been sold to a cable company. And then there was a guy from San Francisco who saw it in Toronto, and he somehow he found me at my parents' house and called and said, I'd like to be the US distributor for Red Rock West. And I said, well, good luck with that, buddy. But anyway, he bought 2 prints, and he showed one in New York and one in LA, and it had this weird distinction of being in the theaters and you could also buy a video cassette of it at the same, it was in rental stores. And
At the same time?
Yeah, at the same time, and I think
That was a thing.
I think it was the longest running movie at Lincoln Center that year in New York. It played for like 200 days or something like that. Anyway, and then the exact same thing happened with Last Seduction. So anyway, it's amazing that we're still here. We're still looking at this movie 25 years later, and thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.